Jennifer Clark, how did the Agnelli family become the big winners of the 2008 financial crisis?
Well, the answer in a nutshell is they had great legal advice and they had a really good plan. The family initially had a huge problem in 2002 with the death of the patriarch, Johnny Agnelli. They didn't have an heir and they had to groom one of the younger, his grandson, for the role. The family wasn't all in agreement, so they had a transition problem. Plus, they had a huge business crisis. The auto market was really a problem for Fiat. But what happened was they managed to turn the situation around. The family, they solved the succession problem, and they took a chance on an unknown manager named Sergio Marchionne, who came in, turned Fiat around, got rid of a lot of dead wood, focused the business strategy on a few models. They launched the 500, had a big success with that. So basically, tough planning, determination, a bit of luck, a little bit of a risk.
Marchionne also got Chrysler, and a lot of people say he only put in sweat equity, didn't deserve it. Did he steal Chrysler?
Well, that's still controversial. A lot of people say that. I would point out that Chrysler in 2008 had no market value. It was a bust company. It had no buyers. There was a there were talks with Renault Nissan. They stepped away from the table. There was an attempt for GM to come in and take it over. That was nixed by GM's own problems, and there was a political opinion there that the two companies should not merge. So when Fiat stepped up to the plate, the company had no market value. I would argue that the sweat equity has a value, has a market value. The technology, the small engines that they brought to the table have a value. The management expertise of an automotive turnaround has value. So I would argue that, yeah, maybe it was a bit of an opportunistic move, but I think they saw a good opportunity, and I think it was a fair thing.
Marchionne was also smart enough to choose that M&M commercial for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
It's such an unlikely story, and it's so typical of this whole Fiat Chrysler story. A French guy, Olivier Francois, now head of Fiat brand, comes to Detroit from Europe and falls in love with Detroit, of all things, and gets involved in the music scene. He was already interested in music. He's also a bit of a writer, interesting guy, and really just tapped into the feeling. He was managing Chrysler brand at the time, and he came to Marchionne with the idea. He started experimenting with M&M's music and wanting to use it somehow. And he really had a hard time convincing Marchionne and the other people on the management team to go with it. But they ended up with, I mean, imagine putting M&M behind the wheel of a Sebring and somehow making it work. It just seems impossible. But again, the company was willing to take the risk and go out on a limb with this really kind of crazy idea. And Marchionne listened to him, heard him out, and they decided to do it.
And now both Fiat and Chrysler seem like they're on the right road. What's next for them?
Well, in Europe, it's a tough year, 2012, as we were saying. What they still really need to do, Chrysler needs a small car. It's launching the Dodge Dart at the Detroit Auto Show January 9. It's built on a Fiat and Alfa Romeo platform. Chrysler really needs that small car to do well. They need to launch Jeep and Alfa Romeo in the fast-growing automotive markets like China and India, where they are not. So they really need to have a couple global brands that have success, and it's still a big uphill climb for them.